On August 19th, it was announced that there were only 5 chapters of Jujutsu Kaisen left, and that the series would be ending on November 30th. Well, it's November 30th as of me writing this, the final chapter has dropped, and I have thoughts. Now originally this was gonna be a very different video. My original plan was to go through all 5 of the final chapters, discussing everything in them and kinda ripping into them. Because to be frank, I really didn't like the direction the ending was going. But I don't want to do that now. Instead, I want to focus on the final chapter, and one scene in particular that has really stuck with me. So, let's get to it. The chapter starts with the gang discussing how to deal with a curse user that has been harassing a couple. We get some funny banter between Yuji and Nobara, and they devise their plan. They find him, he gets easily defeated by totality, and is revealed to just be a weird stalker guy who is then arrested. We get a little flashback with Gojo, which admittedly I kinda like. Yuji says some words of encouragement to the curse user and happily walks away. It's honestly a pretty standard happy ending for a shonen. But then something interesting happens. Sukuna and Mahito in the afterlife talking to each other. Mahito explains that they're in the pathway that souls cross after death, a vestige caused by his curse technique. He asks Sukuna if he was lying to himself, if he wasn't really living to his own accord, but rather seeking revenge on those who wronged him as a child. Sukuna responds that that is the only way he knew how to live. However, he realizes that he actually had 2 paths he could have walked down, and the reason he lived the way he did was because he feared he could only survive by cursing those around him. He admits that if he ever reincarnates, he would prefer going down a different path. Mahito thinks that's boring and tells him that he's grown soft, to which he responds that obviously he has. After all, he lost. Mahito is then left sulking alone in limbo. We cut to all the different characters looking happy, and the chapter ends with a close-up of Sukuna's finger, left behind by Yuji as a talisman in the same place that started off the series. I really like this moment. It gives me the same feeling I had reading 265 for the first time, where I had grown tired of the inconsistent quality of the Shinjuku Showdown, so seeing a genuinely really great piece of writing felt so refreshing. It's very rare to see a villain like Sukuna reconsider his philosophy and learn from his defeat, and it actually works because it makes sense with his character. Sukuna held the belief that the only way to achieve true strength was to burn away all attachments to other humans. Thus, love and compassion were worthless to him. He would eat whenever he wanted to eat, he played with whatever amused him, and killed whoever was in his way. And since he was never defeated, there was never a reason for him to think that he was in the wrong. That is, until someone like Yuji comes along, someone who sees the value in all human life, no matter how small or inconsequential, and defeats him, forcing him for the first time to consider that his views on strength were flawed. After all, if burning away all attachments and living purely for yourself is the ultimate way to achieve strength, then how could he have lost to someone who was fighting to save another person? It also makes sense that Mahito, who was born from humanity's negative emotions towards each other, wouldn't be able to accept his defeat and move on. Hatred and discord are simply in his nature. Now, does this mean that the ending is good? No, not really. There are still too many unfinished or undercooked plot lines and too much time spent on stuff that didn't really matter for me to call this a good ending. Also, as a lot of people have pointed out already, this scene, although great, suffers from the fact that Sukuna never really got a full backstory. Sure, we could piece it together with clues, but it still hinders him as a character. For example, when he's talking about the 2 paths he could have chosen, on the one path we see Urume, and on the other path a woman who we have never seen before. Like, we have no idea who this might be. It could be Angel, it could be Yorozu, it could be his mom. Hell, some people even think this is Kenzaku's original body. We simply don't know. So yeah, even at its best, this is still nowhere near a perfect ending. But that's fine. Jujutsu Kaisen is a heavily flawed series, and so is the ending. But it's also a series that has given us some of the most iconic moments and characters in recent media, as well as one of the most schizophrenic fan bases on the internet. Plus, when the writing hits, it really hits. This may not be a 10 out of 10 manga that will go down in history as a literary masterpiece, but at the end of the day, it was fun. Thank you for watching.